From the Palace at Uncle's Studios in beautiful Southern California, welcome to another edition of Work Comp Matters, the central location for all your workers' compensation, employment, and labor law matters. My name is Steve Appel, and I'll be your host for the next hour with some talk, some news, and hopefully some answers about work comp matters. Thanks for being part of the show, and if you can break away from your work comp matters, feel free to give us a call and clue us in with your questions, comments, and or concerns. The phone number worldwide, 818-357-4120. You can send an email to wcexaminer@aol.com. You can even be old school and send a fax to 818-475-1437. With me in studio tonight, my right-hand man, Mike Zyma, my protege, Robert Ozeron. Scott of Uncle Studios on the board. Back in Munich, Germany is attorney John Scalia. And back at Work Comp Central, making sure the whole damn thing goes right, is Jake Paris. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Work Comp Matters. We are here before the Super Bowl, and you may notice that our show is not titled Super Bowl. It's titled Sunday's Big Game, and there is a reason for that. The NFL has made it quite clear that they have a marketing license on the compound word Super Bowl. So it's okay to use the word Super Bowl in a story or in a news story or the show, as long as I'm not saying for our Super Bowl thing we're giving away money and win money and stuff like that. But I didn't want to risk the show getting knocked off or having any cease and desist orders from the NFL. Lord knows the NFL has got a lot of continuous litigation going on all the time. I figured I'd go ahead and just play it safe, and so we call the show Sunday's Big Game. Of course, Work Comp Matters is brought to you by A1 Law and Santa Monica Tickets. If you want the best computer management system on the planet that's used by more California workers' compensation attorneys than any other system, give me a call at 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached, money-back guaranteed, $1 a day, A1 Law. And if you want those hard-to-get, front-row, sold-out, yes, even Super Bowl tickets, I'm sure he's probably got them left, give our buddy Brian a call at Santa Monica Tickets, 310-395-8587, and Brian will take care of you. I've known him for many years. In addition to talk about Super Bowl, we have Robert's financial report, and of course one of our newest, I think our most fun segments, is Where's Anna? We're going to get to the Super Bowl in just a moment, but I wanted to break tradition, and I wanted to run our first news story right now. Now, before Mike gets to the first news story, I had a handshake agreement. I still do have a handshake agreement with Work Comp Central. I'm not an employee. We do things on the old school way. I consummated this agreement a little over a year ago. I did 52 podcasts for them in 52 weeks last year. They paid me on time. We renewed the contract. They wanted us to come back and do another 52. And so we are doing another 52. Now, in going over the hits, I think we have a total of about 8,000 hits at the most on the first couple of shows. They may be up about 400. The average show has about 150 hits. But there's someone at this table, Robert, who had one news story on Work Comp Central this past Monday, and within the first day got 1,500 hits. And I checked today, and you're right at about 2,500 hits for 3 days. I mean, it takes me over a year to get 8,000 hits, and here you're getting 2,500 hits in 3 days. Now, I know you can't talk about it. That's perfectly okay on the advice of counsel, but that doesn't restrict Mike and I. So with the first news story, he's my right-hand man. He keeps me in check and out of trouble over 90% of the time, Mr. Mike Zyma.
According to Work Comp Central, attorney Robert Ozeron has filed a lawsuit against the 10 attorneys who were arrested by the Orange County District Attorney for a multi-million-dollar illegal referral and illegal capping scheme, which allegedly generated in excess of $79 million in illegal profits over 5 years. The claim, based on RICO and unfair business practices, was originally filed in the state superior court last year, but was recently transferred to federal court this year upon a motion from co-defendants. As of the drafting of this story, none of the defendants could be reached for comment or upon advice of counsel. Mr. Ozeron, who is here with us tonight, has no comment. WorkComp Matters will of course keep you updated as the story progresses.
So, Robert, you can just play with your phone, and Mike and I are going to talk for a couple of minutes. Now, Mike, the first question, of course, that I have, let's assume everything that Robert says in his pleading is correct, and $79 million was obtained illegally because of capping. It wouldn't have been obtained otherwise, and it's unfair business practices. Why should all of the remedy and all the money go to him? How come it wouldn't be spread around pro rata? I mean, I run 2 applicant firms. We probably have, 50 firms in Southern California. And by the way, if it were to be spread pro rata, and I don't know, because when it comes to federal court, I am as dumb as a doornail, okay? Would it be pro rata in Southern California, pro rata in all of California? If indeed everything in the complaint is proven, why should 100% of the remedy go to Robert? Come on.
Well, we spoke about that today, and I essentially told you I don't know, but I'm assuming that any type of formula for granting appropriate relief is to be found within the statutes, which are quite voluminous.
And really briefly, Mike, give us a Reader's Digest version of RICO and unfair business practices, please.
Well, as I understand, this is a civil filing under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO. RICO is available to a private individual damaged in his business or property by the racketeer. The RICO predicate offenses are enumerated in the federal statute beginning at 18 United States Code 1961. The racketeer must forfeit all ill-gotten gains. Recovery of triple damages is allowed. This is the statute Stanley Zaks used at Zenith to shut down some medical providers in the early 1990s. One of the interesting aspects is how and if the state criminal case in Orange County could impact various aspects of this federal case.
Yes, actually, that was my follow-up question to you. Whether or not any of the defendants in Robert's case are found guilty, does that affect his recovery?
Well, obviously I'm no expert, but I think any guilty plea or finding in the criminal case
would be beneficial to his case.
Will be raised judicata as to liability in the RICO case. I think that's possible.
Interesting. Very good. Mike, you want to make any more comment on this?
No, because Robert is gagged. So,
well, I'm sure when his attorney gives him license to talk, he's going to talk to us first before anybody else. I still don't know how WorkComp Central found out about the federal thing before we did. But Robert can't talk about it, and that's okay. Moving on, I have the second news story. Last night, and by the way, when I wrote this is sort of half news and half editorial. It's not completely 100% unbiased journalistic.
Fake news.
Yeah, well, it's not fake either. It's my opinion, and my opinion certainly ain't fake.
Right.
Last night, President Donald Trump gave his first State of the Union address, which clearly illustrated how our politicians are still divided. I thought his speech was on point and designed to bring the country together. However, most Democrats would not even stand up and would not even applaud when Trump said he was going to legalize 1.8 million DACA residents. And again, we spoke about that last week. The Democrats have been hammering on this forever, and now Trump is essentially giving it to them in exchange for a wall, and they wouldn't even stand and applaud. Or when he went and told some stories and introduced the true American heroes. There were about half a dozen of them there. Or when he spoke about the recent economic boom and the fact that unemployment is at a 45-year low. Even when Trump spoke about bringing everyone together, it's totally clear in my mind that the Democrats really want Donald Trump to fail, regardless of the consequences to the country or at any and all costs. The Democrats want him to fail. Now, I'm not a Twitter guy, and I have definitely been embarrassed about how Trump communicates some of the things that he says much of the time over the past year. However, last night, he seemed to me to be very human, very conciliatory, and very presidential. Robert, you've got the next news story.
The California Insurance Commissioner, Dave Jones, today issued a formal notice to all property casualty insurers, reminding them of their duty to cover damages from the recent mudslide and debris flows if it is determined that the burning of hillsides and vegetation by the Thomas and other fires was the, quote, efficient proximate cause, close quote, of the mudslides. Homeowner policies generally exclude flood, mudslide, debris flow, and other similar events.
We're going to get back to more news, more talk, hopefully some answers, and, of course, talk about the big game. But right now, he's part of our crew. He's still licensed. He still has his ticket, an attorney, workers' compensation attorney after 45 years. But he's hanging out in Munich, Germany, and he gives us the Work Comp Matters International Report. Without further ado, attorney John Scalia.
Hi, this is John with the Work Comp Matters International Report from Germany for the week. This is probably going to be the oddest segment you get from me for two reasons. One, I'm going to say something reasonably favorable about one of my least favorite presidents, yes, Trump. And two, I'm going to tie it in with an ad which appeared on the website of my German bank. Obviously, they don't seem to have any direct connection immediately, but bear with me. First, as to Trump. He was the first American president in 20 years to come to the World Economic Summit in Davos. When he said he was coming, I thought he was off his rocker. Of course, what I forgot to realize was Davos was going to be full of the rich and powerful, which is his crowd. Secondly, it's far away from any European city, so he wasn't going to have to face demonstrations. I mean, he had earlier canceled an appearance in London where he was scheduled to open the new American embassy there on the grounds that it was a bad deal for America and he wasn't going to have any part of it. The suspicion was he was afraid of the mass demonstrations, which would certainly have been there. There have already been 100,000 signatures on a petition to Prime Minister May asking her to recall or withdraw her invitation for Trump to visit Britain. However, as I said, he was with his folks in Davos, where he made a pitch about America being open for business and what a great time it was to invest in America. Well, interestingly enough, my German bank had an ad on its website when I accessed my account this week. My bank is Commerzbank, which is the second largest bank in Germany. They forced me, in order to buy my apartment here, to bring my money out of the American stock market and bring it to Germany. And they've given me nothing but bad advice. In fact, the first piece of advice they gave me cost me 10,000 euros because they had me put it in a so-called safe bond fund in Europe. Secondly, they had me go to Fidelity Investment in Europe, and then they had to divest their holdings from that. So I'm not a big fan of their investment advice, but this time it was interesting because we have an opportunity for you to buy American stock. And if you do it by direct deposit, we have a mechanism by which we will buy stock in the American stock market. So in other words, it ties in with Trump's advertisement in Davos to buy American stock. Not only that, but Trump was actually accurate. He actually knew what he was talking about. The American stock market has gone up in his first year of presidency 28.5%, which is an astounding return of investment on your money. It's an astounding return. It's like the fourth highest ever increase in the stock market. And the biggest increase occurred after World War II. That was a no-brainer because America was the only country standing. The other increases occurred during Calvin Coolidge and Bill Clinton's presidencies. Yeah. So from a historical perspective, that's the warning. I mean, if you're looking at the short term right now, you could invest your money. I'm not familiar with the Asian markets, but if you're talking about Europe, you either go to the DAX, which is the German market, or the FTSE, which is the British market. Well, we've got a little thing called Brexit going on. And the British economy is largely powered by the financial service industry. And that is only made possible because they have access to the single market in Europe. It may not be the case after Brexit. No one knows for sure. So any investment in the FTSE is really, really a big risk. You have to be a really high stakes roller to put your money there now. The DAX may be more secure, being in Germany, but again, there's no guarantee that the money from the finance industry is going to end up in Frankfurt. It may well end up in Paris. So again, it's a roll of the dice. So from the short term, Trump is right. I mean, investments are going gangbusters in America. The only caveat, the only advice I have is I'm a historian, so I say. But if you look at what happened after those big bumps, you should take pause. What happened after Calvin Coolidge's big bump? Well, we all know what happened. That was in 25, and in 1929, the whole world went into a depression. What happened after Clinton's big bump? Well, again, the world went into a worldwide recession depression in 2008, which was caused largely by Clinton's economic policies, which I might add are essentially the same kind of policies which Trump is following, maybe not quite as much, but more or less. Basically, they're deregulator, free market, Wild West economics. So there is that caution about the investment. But in the short term right now, there's no question. The smart money goes to America. That's the view from Munich this week.
And John, thanks a lot. And that's a great segue, the smart money, because I wanted to talk a little bit about the big game and about the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl has been in my life clearly for over 45, if not 50 years. It's always a great opportunity to get together with family and friends at a home. I've always been anti-bar, okay? And I never want to go to like an arena or whatever. Super Bowl, and even more recently, has been made and produced for family parties at your home. Get out the barbecue and have fun, have a little tick sheet, maybe, do a little bit of dollar gambling. But for those that really want to do some heavy duty gambling, we know that the spread opened up at about 48 and a half over under. The Patriots were originally favored by 5.5, and then the news story came out that this guy, anonymous, wanted to make a $10 million bet. And, of course, you just can't walk into a casino and make a $10 million bet. You got to make some calls. And I suspect if I were running the sport book, of course, I would want to lay off some money on that. You see, the way a sports book makes money is they don't predict who's going to win and then get everybody else to bet the other way. Without question, black and white, no gray. The sport book wants an even amount of money bet on both sides, and they're going to get about 10% of all the bets for the juice. And then, of course, we have all our little fun prop bets. And I wanted to go over just some of the prop bets. Of course, Pink will be doing the national anthem. And generally speaking, as when it is this year, the over-under on the national anthem is 2 minutes. You can have some prop bets as far as what color hair Pink's will be. Justin Timberlake is doing the halftime show. What color will his shoes be? No, I'm dead serious. There's a prop bet for what color will his shoes be. How many? And of course, the game is at Minnesota and it's domed. So of course, they have a prop bet on how many times the temperature outside the stadium will be mentioned during the broadcast. We also have prop bets on how many times Gisele Bündchen, Tom Brady's wife, will either be shown or mentioned. How many times will Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, be shown on the broadcast? How many times will Tom Brady's age be mentioned on the broadcast? And one that I like here, is the over-under on Donald Trump tweeting during the game. That is 5. And prop bets are really fun because you can also arrange them at your house and do $1. You throw it into a pool, and it just makes for good, clean fun. But I've always enjoyed the Super Bowl. They anticipate this year more than ever between $4.7 and $5 billion will be wagered on the game. Only 3% will actually be wagered in Las Vegas. The other will be going with sport books, illegal, not illegal, between friends and whatnot, but about $5 billion. Clearly, it is the largest one-day sporting activity for betting when everybody comes around and gets together. I don't know what the cost of advertising is. I didn't have the time to check it out. Last year,
I think it's $5 million for 30 seconds.
I think last year it was $3.5 million for 30 seconds. It's up to $5 million now, huh?
I believe that's what I read. The price of poker had just gone up.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if they've sold it out. Mike, you normally have something at your house for your neighbors?
We have done neighbors in the past, but the last number of years it's just close family, and we really enjoy it, and there's a lot of Budweiser.
Robert, if you don't have anything going on, I'm sure you do, but if you don't, you come over to my house, my man.
No, I always appreciate the invites. I like getting invites. Probably be watching the game somewhere else this year. I think I might be going out of town, actually. We'll see.
For the past 10 to 12 years, I was seeing the game at one of my buddies' house from high school, and me and my other buddy from high school would go. He's in the process of moving, so he's not having the game at his house, so I'm probably going to have it at my house. I was invited to go to kind of up by Simi Valley, but I would rather really just stay home and, have people come to me. And that's what makes life worth living for. Once a year, the Super Bowl. I got to tell you, my name is Steve Appel. You're listening to Work Matters. We're talking about the Super Bowl. That's the Sunday's big game. We're brought to you by A1 Law in Santa Monica. Tickets, if you want the #1 computer management system used by more workers' compensation attorneys than any other system on the planet, give me a call at 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached money-back guarantee, $1 a day, A1 Law. And if you want Super Bowl tickets, or if you want sold-out, hard-to-get, front-row concert, sports, theater tickets, give our buddy Brian a call at Santa Monica Tickets, 310-395-8587. We'll be back on Work Comp Matters with some talk news and hopefully some answers, but it's time for a musical break. He's our bud. He's our compadre. He's La Familia. Here's Glenn Laughlin and the Cherry Blue Storms with Baby, You're a Rich Man.
How does it feel to be one of the beautiful people? Now that you know who you are, what do you want to be? And have you traveled very far? Far as the eye can see. Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. You keep all your money in a big brown bag inside a zoo. What a thing to do. How does it feel to be one of the beautiful people? How often have you been there? Often enough to know. What did you see when you were there? Nothing that doesn't show. Baby, you're a rich man. Man too. You keep all your money in a big brown bag inside a zoo. What a thing to do. to play. Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. You keep all your money in a big brown bag inside a zoo. What a thing to do. Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. Baby, you're a rich man. Baby, you're a rich man too. How does it feel to be one of the beautiful people?
Glenn Lachlan and the Cherry Blue Storms on Work Comp Matters. We've got more news with Mike.
Former New York Giants football player Marcus Buckley has been sentenced to 2 years in prison and ordered to repay $1.6 million he collected for false invoices and false credit collection notices for late medical bills and false statements from medical providers which were received post-settlement. Buckley's claims adjuster, Kimberly Jones of Gallagher Bassett, Sacramento, was in on the fraud and will also be going to prison.
I can't believe how stupid the claims adjuster was. Okay, and
Stupid.
I'm going to explain why. Now, if I understood correctly, they CNR'd the case, not a stip. They CNR'd the case for $300,000. Now, we all know that after the CNR, you've got to take care of liens. But he was not only submitting fraudulent statements from doctors and collection agents, but she was reimbursing him for out-of-pocket expense.
Post-CNR?
Post-CNR. Now, unless that CNR says it does not include out-of-pocket expense, which I doubt, she shouldn't be paying him a friggin' dime. It was paid to him. Over $1.5 million was paid out. And I understood it wasn't even Gallagher Bassett that caught it. It was part of an FBI investigation. Now, maybe Gallagher Bassett found out and notified the FBI because I believe it's a California adjusting company in Sacramento. Yeah, it's Gallagher Bassett, Sacramento, adjusting for the New York Giants. So maybe Gallagher Bassett contacted the FBI or contacted New York and they said, let's take care of it. But she reimbursed him $1.5 million in his pocket post CNR. How stupid can you be?
It's hard to believe that didn't raise any red flags ahead of time, right? Where's the supervision? Usually for adjusters, they're part of a team and there's somebody watching over them and then they're part of a larger team, right? There's bureaucracy. Unbelievable that post-CNR reimbursement, someone can even cash a single check, much less, thousands, hundreds of thousands. Now you're saying millions possibly.
I'd like to know how exactly they did it, but as we discussed a couple of days ago, we're not likely to find out because they probably don't want to broadcast how it was done, right?
They don't want to broadcast that they let so many hundreds of thousands, if not over $1 million, be spent out without first getting caught.
Amazing.
Embarrassing, I will tell you. Speaking of insurance companies, Anthem, the nation's biggest health insurer, has informed customers in several states that if they show up to the emergency room with a problem that later is deemed to have not been an emergency, their emergency room claim will not be paid. The policy has generated protests from numerous physicians groups, including ER doctors, as well as pointed questions on Capitol Hill and among state regulators. Medical experts say the policy places an insupportable responsibility on ordinary customers to diagnose themselves before turning to the ER for treatment. Robert, let me ask you, if someone starts feeling sick and I'm going to say they have a headache or something, and a lot of times when you're in the first minutes or whatnot of a
trauma,
stroke.
Thank you very much. Of a stroke, you start to feel a little dizzy. You start to feel a little woozy. If because of this person doesn't immediately go to the hospital, but then stays home or whatever and then dies, does the estate or do the family members have any legitimate cause of action against Anthem because of this new policy?
I doubt it. You can't really say that someone died and they didn't go to the hospital because they were worried about some sort of bill. Generally, I don't think that'll fly. Most people will choose their life over any medical bill in that moment, right? They're not going to really consider it. But I do agree with the criticism of that policy, that it does place an unreasonable burden on people who don't know the extent of the danger they're in the moment. Right, they're not doctors. They don't know if that headache is a stroke.
They're not even nurses or physical therapists.
To think that they
or
would have
claims
to
adjusters.
have an extra worry of, I hope that this is bad because otherwise I'm going to get charged. It's unreasonable. And you're saying which company does this? I can't believe
Anthem.
it. Is
Anthem.
this actual policy now?
They're making it. They're making it. Yep. Yep.
Anthem Blue Cross.
Well, it's Anthem, but yeah.
Okay, well, perhaps there's going to be a lawsuit over that when they deny somebody's claim, and then that policy itself will be deemed simply unreasonable. And tossed out.
Absolutely. I'd take them to small claims court. I mean, I think an average ER bill now is $900, not including any testing or anything, right?
I think they probably have all arbitration clauses nowadays, right? So there probably is an arbitration
Good point.
agreement. The arbitrator would probably need to make a decision that's going to affect all arbitrations that potentially could arise, right? So really it just takes one case to then you go to appeal with the regular courts after that.
And then how do you
Right.
define exactly what an emergency
Unless it's
is?
binding arbitration.
Well, no, even binding arbitration, you still have your right to appeal if it's a miscarriage of justice, it's against the law, right? Binding arbitration is just simply the trial level is tried outside of the court system in an arbitration, right?
But the decision is subject to appeal in the Superior Court.
Sure, just like a superior court verdict is subject to appeal, right? You still have a higher court. You can't have some arbitration that will determine something that federal law, for example, has said is illegal, right? You can't do that. Arbitration is simply a lower court. That's all it means.
And let's find out what the next news story means.
Well, a California appeals court has reversed a lower court and ruled against Tinder Incorporated in an age discrimination case that alleged older users were being charged more for its premium service. Well, hold on here. I know you want to chime in. Tinder argued that market testing showed that younger users are more budget constrained than older users and need a lower price point. But the Unruh Act provides broad protections against arbitrary age-based price discrimination, and the appellate court ruled against Tinder.
You know who owns Tinder?
I don't. Who?
Match.com.
Match.com owns Tinder. So
Yep.
all of the online dating companies are really just one company.
That's exactly right. I haven't done online dating in very many, many years. But before it became socially acceptable, I was on Match.com about, 16, 17 years ago when it was like, it was out there. I mean, that was like the weird thing to do.
Well, before that, you were faxing your photo to ladies, right? That was a little grainy, I think.
And before that, I think it was the classified ads, and it was not the Daily Journal, the
Personals.
the Personals, the weekly, and stuff like that. Yeah.
I don't think I even had that growing up, but I saw it as a reference in TV shows, the Personals, right? So I knew of it. But yeah, I think the online world might be calling you again. Who knows?
I don't know about that, but we we will find out. Mike, you've got the next news story.
Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors approved a motion Tuesday that asked California lawmakers to change the way the state defines grave disability in order to give officials more power to forcibly treat mentally ill homeless folks. The motion comes amid concern about the growing number of deaths of the homeless in LA County. According to data from the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office, 831 homeless people died in 2017, compared with 458 in 2013.
Thank you. We're going to have more news, more talk, hopefully some answers. We've got Robert with the financial news. I've got Where's Anna? But right now it's time for a musical break. Without further ado, on Work Comp Matters, here's Ms. Susan Scheller.
lost my soul, I can't get it back. I've fallen down on my lonely track. Something inside is dying to break free. I got chains from wings used to be. I long to break free from this lonesome jubilee. I feel so scarred and scorned by this party's policy. Yeah. You know, if I could change my ways, baby, I would change today. I got chains, wings used to be. Going high up in the sky. Don't worry, my life ain't gonna pass me by. It's the end of the road, my lonely road of dreams untold. I got chains where wings used to be. And just the other night, you know, I found myself talking to Jesus. I whimpered, winding well, and I had changed. And he said, you're gonna ride for free as long as you stick with me. I've been down, but it don't bother me, no. You know I had me some chains where some wings used to be. And he told me just like this, you're going high up in the sky. Don't worry, your life ain't gonna pass you by. It was looking like the end of the road, the lonely road of dreams untold. You had chains, your wings used to be. Hang on now. You got high up in the sky. Don't worry, your life ain't gonna pass you by. It's the end of the road, your lonely road of dreams untold. Ain't got chains where wings used to be. I don't mean to sound corrupt, but I've fallen, now I can't get up. I don't mean to sound depraved, not a straight line to my grave. Chains where wings used to be. I got chains where wings used to be. Something inside was dying to break free. I had chains where wings used to be. I learned you gotta keep changing. Take it from me.
The folk rock sounds of Susan Scheller on WorkComp Matters were brought to you by A1 Law and Santa Monica Tickets. If you want the best computer management system on the planet, used by more California workers' compensation attorneys than any other computer program, give me a call at 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached money-back guarantee, A1 Law. And if you want those hard-to-get, sold-out concert, sports, theater, Super Bowl tickets, give Brian a call at 818-310-39... did I say 18? I meant 310-395-8587. Robert's going to have the financial report shortly, but right now, one of my favorite segments coming up, Where's Anna? Now, I don't know if any of you remember, but when Saturday Night Live first came out, like about 35, 40 years ago, they offered the Beatles $1,000 to reunite and come on to the show. Well, I'm here to tell you, folks, that I'm willing to offer Anna Montez Gluck in advertising the same amount that was offered the Beatles, $1,000 in advertising, if Anna Montez Gluck comes on the show. I think she's a fantastic woman. She takes care of her business. She pays her bills. I mean, I would say she's a stud, but obviously she's a studette. So you've heard it here first, folks. $1,000 in advertising if Anna Montez comes on the show. This has been Steve Appel, Work Comp Matters, and Where's Anna? And, of course, Anna, you can contact me privately to go over those advertising rates. I'll give you a good deal, I promise. Well, without further ado, about 5.5 years ago, he sort of strolled into my office like a little puppy dog wanting to lap up some water, and I gave him some food. He then started working for me at $15 an hour. Then he got his bar card. Then he went out into the real world. Then he hung a shingle. Then he got employees. And now he's got a case in U.S. federal court. With the Work Comp Matters News, Mr. Robert Ozeron, attorney.
Well, that's quite an introduction. Thank you there, Steve. This is attorney Robert Ozeron with the Work Comp Matters Financial Report for the week of January 31st, 2018. Corvell Corp's revenue rose in the fourth quarter of 2017, with the company expecting additional revenue benefits from the U.S. tax reform. The Irvine, California-based workers' comp insurance and claims management service provided a report that their revenue was $140.7 million for the fourth quarter of last year, up 9.6% compared to the same quarter in 2017, according to the company's earnings report released last Tuesday. Amazon.com, Berkshire Hathaway, and JP Morgan Chase & Co. are partnering to create an independent healthcare company for their U.S. employees that will be focused on improving employee satisfaction and reducing costs.
Robert had a smile on his face when reading that story. Sorry to interrupt. Please continue.
The new venture will be free from profit-making incentives and constraints and will initially emphasize technology solutions that will provide U.S. employees and their families with simplified, high-quality, and transparent healthcare at a reasonable cost, the company said.
There goes the smile. He definitely wanted a profit. Please continue.
The Amazon, Berkshire, JP Morgan news comes after the announcement last month by CVS Corp that it will acquire health insurance Aetna for $97.5 billion. CVS wants to transform its 10,000 stores into health clinics where consumers can receive medical care, have their insurance handled, obtain their prescription drugs, all while buying deodorant and candy. Exxon, the world's largest publicly traded oil company, on Monday said it plans to invest $50 billion in the United States over the next 5 years. Darren Woods, chairman and CEO of Exxon, said the investment is partially due to the recently passed corporate tax cuts. Employers across the country are losing nearly $10 billion this year to the flu season, which continues to spread rapidly, claiming a record number of lives as well as sick days. Previous estimates pinned the lost productivity to employers at about $7 billion, according to the CDC. This has been the Work Comp Matters Financial Report. I'm attorney Robert Ozeron.
All right. Thank you very much. Mike, you've got the next news story, I think.
University of California President Janet Napolitano is considering a potentially sweeping overhaul of her office in the wake of sharp political criticism over its size, cost, and budget practices. An extensive outside review of the office provided to the Times found relatively little fat in its oversight of the most complex university system in the nation, a $33 billion operation of 10 campuses, 5 medical centers, 3 national laboratories, and global research. But the review suggested streamlining the office in what could amount to a 50% budget reduction. Suggestions for those potential savings include spinning off the UC medical and health system to a new statewide network, moving some programs to campuses, and eliminating others, such as the UC Mexico Initiative.
Guess who's no longer the Republican National Committee Finance Chairman? Real estate Las Vegas mogul Steve Wynn, owner of the Mirage, Treasure Island, Bellagio. Wynn, who's worth an estimated $3.5 billion, just until a few days ago, was the Republican National Committee Finance Chairman, but he had to resign. Can anybody guess why? That's right, sexual harassment allegations by dozens of people over decades. Wynn allegedly pressured his employees to frequently perform sex acts. The abuse was so well known that sometimes his employees would make fake appointments for their colleagues to protect them from being alone with him. Wynn also paid out $7.5 million to his manicurist after he allegedly pressured her to lie on a massage table and have sex with him. She told Wynn she didn't want to have sex because she was married, but he persisted. At times, Wynn would even make sexual requests in a small space occupied by one or more of his German shepherds. His German shepherds, a move that intimidated women into cooperating.
Or he'd sick the dogs on him?
I don't know.
Jeez.
Maybe they were into bestiality or something. I don't get it. But it's like, here, sweetie, I want to have sex with you. Woof woof. I just don't understand.
Or else, grr.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We will be back with some more talk, more news, hopefully some answers. Hopefully I can get the guys' predictions on the Super Bowl. I'll tell you mine. Also, if maybe you have a special recipe for the Super Bowl you want to tell us all, I don't know. We've got our last music for the show. We've been playing Tom Petty for many of our podcasts simply because he was with me for 40 years, and now, of course, he's gone, officially died of prescription overdose, accidental prescription medication. What a shame. What a waste. Mr. Tom Petty and the Last DJ.
Well, you can't turn him into a company man. You can't turn him into a whore. And the boys upstairs just don't understand anymore. Well, the top brass don't like him talking so much, and he won't play what they say to play. And he don't wanna change what don't need to change. And there goes the last DJ who plays what he wants to play and says what he wants to say. Hey, hey, hey. And there goes your freedom of choice. There goes the last human voice. And there goes the last DJ. Well, some folks say they're gonna hang him so high, 'cause you just can't do what he did. There's some things you just can't put in the minds of those kids. As we celebrate mediocrity, all the boys upstairs wanna see how much you'll pay for what you used to get for free. And there goes the last DJ who plays what he wants to play and says what he wants to say. Hey, hey, hey. And there goes your freedom of choice. And there goes the last human voice. And there goes the last DJ. Down in Mexico, and sometimes it'll kinda come in, and I'll bust a move and remember how it was back then. And there goes the last DJ who plays what he wants to play and says what he wants to say. Hey, hey, hey. And there goes your freedom of choice. There goes the last
Tom Petty on another edition of Work Comp Matters. We're brought to you by A1 Law and Santa Monica Tickets. If you want those hard-to-get, sold-out front row concert, sports, theater tickets, he may even have some Super Bowl tickets left. Give Brian a call at 3. I keep saying 818 today. 310-395-8587. And, of course, if you want the computer management system used by more workers' compensation attorneys in California than any other system on the planet, give me a call at 818-357-4120 for your no-strings-attached money-back guarantee, $1 a day, A1 Law. We are talking about the big game. The spread is New England by 4.5, and the over-under is 48.5. I am picking the Eagles to win outright, and I do not have a prediction on the over-under. Mike?
38-24 Eagles.
Big.
Foles is going to light it up.
And Robert, any predictions?
I think the Patriots are probably going to win. They are favorited by 4.5. I think they'll probably win by 7.5, not by half, but I think they might win by a full touchdown, probably.
Now,
I think Foles isn't as good. He's as Brady. He was a backup. I know Wentz was really great, but Brady in the Super Bowl, it's going to be hard to beat.
One of the reasons why I'm picking the Eagles to win outright is I can't forget last year. The Patriots went down by 25 points.
28-3, yes.
And then came back to win.
Remarkable.
If the Patriots go down, and I know Brady is comeback kid, Eagles' defense is just too strong. There is no way that would ever happen again.
Yeah, it's unlikely that would happen again. I agree. I just think that probably the Patriots will jump out in front in this one, and the Eagles might have trouble keeping up if it becomes a passing game, right? Foles start passing. It might be tough. The pressure might be tough on him.
So, Robert, if you go to someone's house, are you going to buy something or are you going to make something as far as food and drink?
Well, I guess if I had to either buy or make something, I'd probably buy something for time constraints. I would probably just ask the person what they wanted, and then I'd bring it. But I probably won't be buying or making anything for the Super Bowl this year. I think I might be going to Vegas, actually. We'll see.
Wow.
We'll see.
Wow.
Hey, be safe.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to 100% yet, right? But that's where I actually saw the Super Bowl last year. It was a great game, right? And Brady came back.
How was
from
it to
Atlanta.
watch the Super Bowl in Vegas?
Wow. Last year it was crazy because of the game.
Were you in a sport book or somewhere else?
I was in the hotel. Well, not in the room. I was at the sports book in the hotel.
Okay.
And there was a lot of Patriots fans, a lot of Falcons fans. Everyone's wearing their jersey. It's Vegas, but there's a ton of jerseys out of nowhere in the casino, right? And there's a bunch of people, and the game just provided a lot of energy for the crowd. Even the people who lost, the Falcons fans, to lose like that last year, one of the all-time great games, and an amazing comeback. And sometimes if you're going to lose, it's better to lose, I guess, in a historic game, even though it hurts more. It was a really fun time in Vegas for that one.
Mike, do you make something or you buy something?
Combination of both, and then folks bring things. I'm thinking, like deli meats and bread and mustard and Budweiser.
I always make my homemade chili. It starts out the night before, where I get all the ingredients lightly stir-fried, and then it goes in the slow cooker for like an hour or two. Then it goes into the fridge, it cools down, and then when I get up that morning, like at about 9 o'clock, a couple hours, I turn it back on again. And there's just something about cooking up chili for the second day where all the flavors blend, and it tastes so much better on day two
It sounds great.
than it does on day one. I always bring a good bottle of tequila. I know that wherever I go is going to have beer, but I figure they're not always going to have good tequila. So I figure if I bring good tequila, I can probably scam a beer or two out of the host. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Dana Point City Council this month passed a citywide smoking ban, joining Laguna Beach as the only two cities in Orange County to prohibit smoking on all public sidewalks, in alleys, and in parking lots. The ban passed on a 3-2 vote, with Mayor Rick Vizkorik and Mayor Pro Tem Joe Mueller opposing. I don't go down behind the orange curtain too often. I know that Santa Monica, I believe, has a no-smoking zone. And by the way, guys, this is tobacco. This is not even marijuana. Okay, this is tobacco smoke in public. And I've always thought it's an infringement on my rights. I'm aware of secondhand smoke, but you really can't calculate secondhand smoke because you have a cigarette that's burning right in front of your face versus if you're at the beach, a lifeguard station away out in the open. And Robert and I have discussed that before with everything in between. I'm just totally against citywide smoking bans. But hey, that's me. That's our First Amendment, and that's what makes America great. Robert, I think you have the next news story. I noticed I didn't say make America great again. I said makes America great.
A woman who was pulled from a metro subway train after she refused a policeman's order to take her foot off the seat has filed a complaint against the city, saying she suffered an injury during the incident. 18-year-old Bethany Nava said she sprained her wrist when a Los Angeles police sergeant grabbed her arm and pulled her off the Red Line train at Westlake and MacArthur Park Station, January 22nd, which has been viewed more than 13 million times and has prompted the LAPD to initiate a use of force investigation. Nava's claim, which is a precursor to a possible lawsuit, accuses the sergeant of excessive force, false imprisonment, negligence, infliction of emotional distress, and violating her civil rights. Nava was ultimately cited for loud and boisterous conduct on the train and released. She was not cited for violating rules for putting her foot on the seat, her attorney said.
First and foremost, nobody really got injured. Next, obviously, nobody got killed. This has been viewed millions and millions of times. I want to know if you guys think the police officer handled it right. Now, I have a great respect for the police, law enforcement. They have a extremely important, valuable job, and I do my best to give them all the benefit of the doubt. But from what I've seen, what I've heard, the better thing to do would have been to have given this woman a ticket or cited her and not get physically combative. What do you think?
Well, obviously, hindsight is always 20/20, right? Now, it kind of reminds me of an old anecdote, or a lesson, you can say, of my old law school professor used to teach me. And he used to teach us right at the end of our criminal procedure class about search and seizure and what the police's rights are. And he would say, okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, now, when the police officer, the man, when he pulls you over and he says, get out of your car, lay on the ground, eat dirt, what are you going to do? Are you going to tell him, no, I know my rights, I'm going to take you to court? No. You're going to lay there and you're going to say, yes, sir, no, sir, and you're going to eat dirt because you don't enforce your rights on the street with the police officer. You enforce your rights in a court of law where people will listen to you reasonably, civilly, right? If you start yelling at a police officer, right, he's allowed to do whatever he'd like to keep the peace. He has a broad discretion. As far as the law goes, the police is the judge on the street. Put it that way.
And also, when he asked for her ID, she either didn't have it or didn't fork it out.
Oh, yeah, or refused it. And she was cited for being loud and boisterous. Pretty much, you got into a shouting match with the police officer, probably yelling that your free speech, right? And sure you do. Definitely, you might have a lawsuit now, right? It doesn't change the fact that on the street, if you want to stay safe, you say, yes, sir, no, sir. You could ask them politely, respectfully, right? You could demand respectfully to speak to a sergeant or a supervisor as well. You don't need to simply take no for an answer. There are people out there who act tough with the cops in a very civil way, if you've seen them.
I don't know if that guy needed to escalate it like that, though.
Well, of course not. But police are trained not to lose on the street. You can't just yell at a cop and for him to say, you know what, discretion is the better part of valor.
Police are trained to stay alive on the streets.
Correct. And not to turn away from a possible aggressor. They don't do that. They don't walk away and de-escalate situations. You have to understand that as a citizen, that the police are there to do one job, and it's to enforce what they see as the law.
I've seen police officers de-escalate situations all the time.
Perhaps maybe one officer walks into another officer's situation and de-escalates it for him, you know.
Maybe.
But generally, a person who has been confronted one-on-one, they don't want to just turn around on themselves, especially when it's a police officer dealing with some 18-year-old kid, and they probably think right away, look at this punk, right? We all know the situation, the mindset of both, probably, just from looking at it from the outside. We have a cop who thinks that, who is this kid to tell me what they think they know? And you have a kid who thinks they know, right? And they won't shut up. So, the cop says, give me some documents, show me ID. You say no because you think you know what you're doing. But you got to save that stuff for the courtroom there. You know, you've been watching too much Law and Order. Right, I thought that too before I was an attorney. Now, just like a cop pulls me over, I say yes sir, no sir. I don't even let them know I'm an attorney. Right, I like to use that in court to say, hey, actually, I know what I'm doing. Right, I have some discovery rights. I know what my rights are. And I've actually, just an anecdote myself, I've gotten out of a ticket one time just by doing that. I got the ticket right there on the, I got pulled over, got a ticket. It was for some illegal U-turn. It wasn't a big deal. I shouldn't have done it, but still, right? The cop, I could do the trial by written declaration. You can start using the process, right? There are remedies available for you if you can think through it. But you don't want to try to confront somebody on the street whose job it is to confront people.
Over 95% of the time, there is no confrontation, and when there is, the police do it right. It's the 1 to 4% of the time somewhere there that we always see on YouTube and that makes headlines.
But at the same time, that's because a lot of the citizens are trained to not confront the police, right? Can you imagine if everybody was belligerent, like this young lady may have been in this situation? We'd probably have a lot more rare instances, right? Because it's straight probability. It doesn't matter if it has 1 out of 100. If you just keep playing it, you're going to get a lot.
If I'm in my car, I'm driving, and a police pulls me over, the first thing I do is roll down my windows. I then pull over. I then turn off the engine. I then put both my hands on the top of the steering wheel and put my fingers up so they know right away I'm being cooperative. If they say, may I license and registration? Officer, my driver's license is in my left pocket. My registration is in my glove compartment. May I go? He'll say yes, and I do it slowly. I never have I don't fortunately get stopped that often, but when I have, I've never had a problem.
And that actually signals to the officer, too, that you recognize that his job is dangerous, right? That you respect their job. You understand that they don't know who you are, but you know generally who they are because of the uniform they wear. So for them, it's the unexpected. For you, you should get the unexpected. If you get the rare cop who's, dirty or something like that, or it's possible. They make TV shows out of that stuff, but it's not the likelihood. The likelihood is the person behind the badge is just trying to get home, trying to do the job, and they don't know who you are. So if you help them out, they will show you appreciation. They might give you a warning, right? But let me tell you, if you roll down the window and you start cursing at them, tell them, why'd you pull me over? It's all BS. Let me tell you, you guaranteed that ticket, okay? The moment you had that attitude. The world, a lot of times, the world is what you make it.
And that's all the time that we have for attorney Robert Ozeron, for Mike Zyma, for Scott of Uncle Studio, for John Scalia, and for all the good people that continue to approve and support this project at Work Comp Matters, including but not limited to Lee File and Jake Paris. My name is Steve Appel. We'll see you again next week on another edition of Work Comp Matters.